Okay, I think in the last class we start with adding the values. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe we will add values for the other segments as well. So we added for
Mm-hmm.
the company. So
Mm-hmm.
similarly, we'll add for the intercompany and department as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is our accounting value addition page.
Mm-hmm.
So this we know that if it is marked as a summary, which means this is a parent account. So since this is not my parent, so I have marked this as a no. And we
Mm-hmm.
have posting alone. So unless we allow this, we will not be able to make any transaction that is going from the subledger to general ledger module.
Okay.
And allow budgeting is something whether we wanted to allow budgeting with this particular account. Maybe we can
Mm-hmm.
restrict for few accounts that is not under the budget. Maybe the clearing accounts. So clearing accounts are the one which will help us in terms of the reconciliation and the other things like our liability account and our accrual account. So similarly, we have other accounts. So maybe we can exclude those accounts alone.
Okay.
And apart from that, we have the nature of account. So this determines whether this particular account will fall under debit or credit in the normal scenario or the otherwise in the reversal. So here if we see we have asset, we have expense, we have liability, revenue and ownership equity. So since this is
Owner's
an
equity. So,
yeah,
okay. So if it's revenue, which means it's for AR,
yes, correct.
and then owner's equity is for which module?
No, this is not owner security is not model specific. So this will come under balance sheet. So if you see this
Okay.
retained earnings, so this will
Mm-hmm.
be our owner security. But whereas
Okay.
this will not be falling under any of the modules, but it will have certain implication in terms of financial part. So,
Okay.
so when we are seeing on the initial class, we were seeing that how this profit and loss and the period close activity will be involving.
Mm-hmm.
So where the P&L account balances will be transferred to the retained earnings account, and from retained earnings account, once the batches are reversed in the next open period,
Mm-hmm.
the respective balance will fall again under the P&L account.
Okay.
So this will act as an additional profit or whatever the reserves that is maintained by company will fall under this particular account.
Okay.
So that is why it will not fall under any of the modules like AR, AP, the other
Okay.
modules.
So basically, you leave it blank for retained earnings. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, for
The
now,
account type?
no, we will mark as an ownership equity.
Owner's equity. Okay.
Yeah. And then we have third party control account. So if you see here, so we can restrict journal entry. So this is what we were seeing. That if you want to restrict certain accounts, so not enter the manual journal entries, so that we can do it from here. Restrict GL
Okay.
annual journal entries.
Okay.
And
Customer control account.
yeah, and other accounts if we want to have the subledger reference so that we can
Mm-hmm.
maintain. So either from AR or from AP. So if we want
Mm-hmm.
to manage through AR, which means it is customer control account. If we want to
Mm-hmm.
manage through AP, it is supplier control account.
Supplier.
Yeah. And third party control account is something this will have reference of either of the subledger reference. Either it could be AP or AR as well. So the
Okay.
subledger reference is nothing but our invoice number or anything that is related to the subledger transaction.
Okay.
So unless we have this reference, we cannot post this particular journal entry.
Okay. And what about no?
So no is nothing but we are not using this option. So which means we don't have any control or restriction to this particular account. So even
Mm-hmm.
though I don't have the reference or anything, so I can still
Mm-hmm.
post this particular journal entry.
Okay. But generally, what do they do? Do they give a no, or do they specify? I mean, depending on the module, they assign that customer controller or the supplier control account or whatever.
Yeah,
It's
then
based on the requirement.
yeah, exactly. It is based on the requirement, but generally it will be no. So few
Okay.
cases it will apply as an restricted GL manual journals, and rare cases we will use either the supplier control account or the customer control account.
Okay.
And reconciliation, if you want to enable this account for the reconciliation. So reconciliation, we have two things. So one is at account level and the other is at module level. So module for in order to do at module level, basically we have certain reports to identify. So for example, we have account analysis report in GL and we
Mm-hmm.
have APTB in AP.
Okay.
So this TB and the TB or the account analysis in GL will match and we will be able to do the reconciliation. So this reconciliation what we are talking about is for the account level. So which means we are trying to reconcile only inside the general ledger between the accounts.
Okay. So basically, what do you do in reconciliation?
So reconciliation basically what we will do is that let's say I have created an invoice worth of 10,000.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, I have created 20 invoices. So I might have entered this invoice and
Mm-hmm.
I might have not accounted it, or
Mm-hmm.
I could have accounted it in draft and I could have not transferred to general ledger, or maybe I didn't post this particular entries. So
Mm-hmm.
which means my subledger balance is different from my GL balance.
Mm-hmm.
So when there is a discrepancy where we say there is a reconciliation issue. So what we will
Okay.
do is that we will run few reports in subledger. Let's take in this case AP. So
Mm-hmm.
in AP, we will run a report called accounts payable trial balance. So
Mm-hmm.
this account payable trial balance will let us know the balance for the particular account.
Okay.
Similarly, in GL, we have an report called account analysis. Again, this is for the particular account.
Mm-hmm.
So if we run this particular report, we will know that what are the transactions that has happened for this particular account.
Mm-hmm.
So we will compare this GL account analysis with the accounts payable trial balance,
Mm-hmm.
where if there is an mismatch, so we will have to figure out like what is the mismatch. So how do we find out is that we can take the drill down of the particular transaction. So from there we
Okay.
will try to identify.
Okay.
So that is what we call reconciliation at high level.
Okay.
So similarly, we have reconciliation for other modules as well. For AR, we have it, and if we want to do for FA also, we can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this is like financial category. So financial category is nothing but categorizing under this one. So if you see
Mm-hmm.
here, we have the retained earnings.
Mm-hmm.
So similarly, if you want to categorize, we can just categorize.
So, tell me something. When you give the value as 3,000, right? Is
Yeah.
3,000 the value everywhere? Every company uses retained earnings as 3,000, or is it just that you gave 3,000?
No, basically there will be a sequence. So
Mm-hmm.
most of the company follows this rule actually. So uh, sorry, most of the company follows this rule where the from the sequence like one or thousand will start from the revenue or
Mm-hmm.
the expense, and two can be either expense or revenue, whichever way we want to follow. Mostly it will
Mm-hmm.
be one would be expense, two will be revenue, and
Mm-hmm.
three would be owner's equity, and four would be asset or the
Mm-hmm.
liability, and then five would be asset or liability, either way.
Okay.
So they will have certain sequence to identify whether this will fall under revenue or liability, whichever account it is.
So if let's say you are the functional consultant and they give you this for you to do the account, adding the values here.
Okay.
So do they give you everything like, the account type, allow budgeting, all those details will they give you, or you have to assume, or do you have to ask them?
No, actually, they will not give even the sequence.
Mm,
So this will be created by us, and we will suggest to customer.
okay,
So what we will get basically is that the legacy account codes.
okay,
So we will get the legacy account code along with the account type.
okay.
So this will be there. So we will take this particular account, let's say liability account. So maybe
Mm-hmm,
liability account could be uh, maybe 4000 in legacy.
mm-hmm,
So similarly, we will create same sequence in Oracle Fusion,
okay,
and we will mark these options. So this we
uh,
will discuss with client as a customer whether we
mm-hmm,
wanted to have any parent or child combination.
mm-hmm,
So based on the requirement, so we will
mm-hmm,
try to figure out whether this will fall under the parent or this will fall under the child. And allow
okay,
posting and allow budgeting, mostly it would be yes. Unless we have a special requirement that we don't want to have this under budgeting.
okay,
And this account type we will have as a part of our legacy system. This thing. So
okay,
whatever the mapping is there, we will just map it here as well.
okay,
And again, the third party control, this is requirement specific.
okay,
And reconciliation, again, this is requirement specific. And
okay.
category, we will know that under which category basically this account will fall, either the liability, asset, or retained earnings, or whichever the financial category.
Okay. So this is something that we decide or something that they tell us?
Which one the
Financial category.
no, financial category basically it will be given by finance users.
Okay. So the business gives it.
Yeah, yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, yeah, I'm good. So if you're, let's say if you're using a corporate account now
Okay,
for the values,
okay.
so will that already have retained earnings in it?
Corporate account in the sense you are saying about the chart
Uh,
of account structure.
like for account values, right? Instead of you loading adding one at a time,
Yeah,
let's say you're using the corporate, the seeded one
okay,
for account values.
okay.
Will that have the retained earnings already in that?
Yeah, I mean, there is a slight change here between EBS and Fusion. In EBS, if you see, in Vision instance, basically, we will have few accounts and the setups made already in order to practice.
Mm,
But in Fusion, if you see, even though this is an Vision instance, we will not
mm-hmm,
have any setup or any chart of accounts defines for that. So we will
mm.
have to define it and we will have to load the values. So we cannot use this corporate account define for that. So we have to load the values actually.
Oh, really? I thought
Yeah.
we could use a corporate account. Okay.
Here we don't have corporate account actually. It is mostly user specific chart of account structure values.
Okay.
Yeah, if you see in AP and AR as well, so we will have
Hmm.
something called vision operation and the other things in EBS. But whereas here we will not find those options
Hmm.
because no setups are made in Fusion.
Okay. Can you try using just close out this and can you go and search for corporate? I'm
Yeah,
just curious.
yeah, sure.
The corporate account at the bottom.
I think that someone has created it in the name of corporate.
I think there is one, Arun, because
Uh,
I heard one of the instructors in previous thing why he was using the corporate account only. Because
okay,
he said instead of creating like how we just did for retained earnings, he said instead of adding that he could use corporate. Let me double check. I'm not sure, but I'll check.
okay.
Maybe you're right. I don't know. I'm just saying. I thought I heard somewhere corporate. Maybe it's in the EBS. I'm getting confused. Who knows?
Yeah, because I mean, maybe I will also check it, but because if you
Hold on.
see in
Yeah. Give me a second. I can't leave this. That's fine. Yeah. Maybe I'll research it and tell you.
yeah, I'll check that one because I have seen this one also, the operating unit and the other part,
Hmm.
where we don't have the vision operations and the other things, what we have it in Fusion. I mean, EBS.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm like only this
Yes,
corporate account is on one thing I thought they were using. So, but
okay.
maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? But I'll check.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I'll check and I'll confirm it. Okay, so we have created a chart of account structure and we have given few values for that. So we will just see basic configuration. So after creating our ledger and completing the entire configuration, we will see how to load the chart of account values using the Excel sheet.
So this is after what? Can you repeat that?
Yeah, so we will try to create the basic configuration for ledger. So once this
Okay.
configuration is done, we will try to load the chart of account values, the
Mm-hmm.
account values using the Excel sheet. So after
Okay.
that, we will try to make a manual journal entry.
Okay.
Okay, so on the four C's, we have completed one C that is chart of account. So I'm just clicking for the calendar creation.
So when you say basic ledger structure, I mean, what do you say? Basic ledger structure, right? You just
Yeah.
said that. So that means it is the chart of accounts and all these four C's, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Just making sure.
So basically, if you see in EBS, so while creating the calendar, so we will create the account type and then we will come here and attach the account type and then we will load the chart of, we will load the accounting periods for maybe 3 years or 4 years. But here
Hmm.
in Fusion, if you see, it is automated. In one click, we will get all this accounting years period created.
Hmm.
So here, if you see the frequency we have, so we have monthly. If you want to have monthly period, So in this case, I'm just taking monthly, but apart from that, we have the other options as well. So if we want to maintain the weekly calendar, we can have quarterly and
Mm-hmm.
yearly calendar.
Mm-hmm.
And apart from that, we have 454. So which means this is mostly on the inventory part.
Mm-hmm.
So 4 days. So similarly. So
What
for
does
calendar,
454 stand for?
so 4 5 stands for 4 weeks, 5 days. Another for it's not something.
Oh, that's fine. That's okay.
Yeah.
But we don't use it mostly, right? So when you say monthly, it is basically it does it for the entire year based on the months.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And if it's yearly, so it creates for those many years.
Yeah, this will be like kind of an yearly. For an year, we will have only one period defined. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, so that is the difference between monthly and yearly basically.
why would they use yearly then if it was only one period defined for the entire year?
Yeah, mostly it will be monthly basically.
Yeah, yeah, I know generally, but who uses that yearly?
I mean, even I haven't also seen that,
I
but
know that's
we
fine.
have options.
It's okay. It's okay.
And I'm not marking this as an budgetary control. So if I mark, I will not be able to use this as an normal calendar in the lecture. And adjusting period, I'm just marking at once at year end.
1041.
Yeah. Here again, we have multiple options. So if you want to have twice at year end, that we can have it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe quarterly, some companies might have it. So for the quarterly also, we can have it.
Mm-hmm.
So this case, I'm taking once at the year end.
Okay. So what does that budgetary control only mean?
So that means this calendar can be used only for the budgeting purposes.
Okay.
We
You'll
cannot,
have to explain that little more for me later. I mean,
yeah,
after this budget piece also.
yes, sir. After completing the general
Yeah,
ledger,
yeah,
I mean the
yeah,
normal processes, after
yeah,
completing the manual journal and the other options, we will see the
yeah,
budget.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if you see here, so I didn't create the period name and the other thing. So, but system has created automatically based on the setup that we gave on the earlier page. So it has
Mm-hmm.
marked as an adjusting period.
Mm-hmm.
So if we want to have different period as an adjusting, maybe we can deselect this and select the different period.
Okay. So usually for adjustment, they just have one day to adjust everything.
Yeah, yes, correct.
Oh,
That's what that depends on customer to customer, but mostly I have seen customers using one day as an adjusting.
okay.
But we have options to do for the quarterly as well. If you see on our earlier page, so we
Mm-hmm.
have multiple options where we can choose the quarterly basis, or if we want to choose maybe twice at
Twice at year
year
end.
end, or maybe if we want to have mid of the year so that we can have it. So we have
Mm-hmm.
multiple options here.
Okay. Can this be changed at any time? I mean, like say first when we are doing that implementation, let's assume that
No,
you said once at year end, then
yeah.
business decides, okay, no, I want to do it every quarter or whatever, twice a year. So we can come here and change it.
No, we cannot change it. So once this is defined, we cannot change this setup.
Okay.
We will not be able to see this page once this is done. So we will see only this page what we are having like the period. So we
Okay.
will see only this page.
But let's assume if the company wants to do something like that. So what do you do in that case? You basically end date this calendar and then redo a new one?
Yes, that is the only option that we will have.
Okay.
But again, we need to close all the transaction that is open, or else we will have the data issues.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll just save this calendar and I'll open for the next year as well.
Can you go back at once?
Yeah,
Where did you go? Just you add a year you add.
yeah, here.
Oh, okay.
So this will create a new year.
Okay.
So similarly, we can just save and we can add new year. So which will create for the January 2022.
Okay.
So we have saved this particular calendar. So if you see now, we will not have the back button to change our the period figure.
Options.
Yeah. So this will be kind of an one-time setup. So once this is done, we cannot change anything on the calendar.
Okay.
So we have created calendar as well, and currency and accounting convention we are using as it is. So I'll just start with the ledger configuration.
Mm-hmm.
So to start with, I'll create the legal entity.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be two options. So if it is already there, we can select it. So since this is new, I'm clicking
Mm-hmm.
create new and let me create a new legal entity. Okay, so we have created a legal entity. So we will try to create a ledger and specify the ledger option.
So, Arun,
Yeah.
so I'm, I need little clarification here.
Yeah.
So, when we are doing the creation of legal entity and the primary ledger here, right, this is
Yeah.
done by the financial consultant.
Yes, correct.
So, the enterprise structure itself is defined by the HR or HCM people.
Yes, correct.
So, let's assume they already created a legal entity. Can't you just use that legal entity here?
Yeah, we can use as it is. We don't need to create it again. So since
Okay.
I mean, there is no legal
I
entity
know, I get
definition.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
here we did not, so we are doing it here. But then ledger is also something that they define, right?
No, ledger will be
No?
defined only by finance consultant.
Only finance. Okay. Just want to make sure that
Yeah.
clarification. Okay.
Yeah. So we have attached our chart of account. So this will be instance will be attached, and we attach the calendar that we created, and we have taken the USD currency, and we have chosen standard approval.
So chart of accounts, why do we use the instance instead of directly the chart of account? What is that value set thing? What's the difference you said? Sorry.
Yeah. So the difference is that in chart of account structure, let's say we have 10 segments. So on the 10 segments, I might use 5 segments for a particular combination and another
Okay.
5 segments for different combination. And again, I can attach this one instance at file ledger also. So which means my chart of accounts will be similar for all the 5 ledgers.
Okay.
So that is why we have the difference between the cross validation rule and the security rule. So if I
Okay.
create a cross validation rule, which means it applies for the chart of account structure at instance. So which means this will be applicable for all the 5 ledgers wherever the operating unit or the this thing is supplied. So let's
Okay.
take an example where we have 5 ledgers defined under this particular chart of account, that is UHA COA instance.
Mm-hmm.
So I have given cross validation rule.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm creating a transaction under the ledger 2, which has the same chart of accounts. So which means I will have a restriction again. Even though if I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to have, I will have the restriction. But whereas
Okay.
whereas in the security rule, so what will happen is that if I want to have for the specific user or the
Mm-hmm.
specific responsibility, so that I will control who to whom will have the restriction and who can use without the restriction. So that is the
Okay.
advantage we have.
Okay.
So that is why we have I mean, we are attaching the COA instance without attaching directly the structure.
Okay.
So I have attached it, and this is done, and maybe we can save this. Okay, so ledger has been created. So we will assign the legal entities. So if the legal entity is already created by the HCM consultant, what we will do is that we will only assign the legal entities. We will not
Mm.
create the legal entities.
Okay.
So we have assigned the legal entity. So the next setup is to specify the ledger options. Yeah. So we have the ledger name and everything coming from the earlier setup. So here we
Mm-hmm.
have something called
Future.
Future enterable period. So future enterable period is something that I can enter the transaction, but I'll not be able to post this particular transaction. So whether I
Mm.
wanted to have future enterable as 1, 2, or 3, any number we can enter. We don't have any restriction here. But
Mm-hmm.
as a standard practice, it would be always 1.
Okay. Church, you reduce the volume. Chachu, reduce the volume.
Okay, so we have set up, we have attached the account that we created as in retained earnings, and
Mm-hmm.
we have attached the rate to calculate the gain or loss and the other things for the transaction.
Default period and end rate type corporate. So what is that default period end rate type? What does that mean?
So default end rate is something that whether we want to take to calculate the conversion and the other currency related transaction, whether we wanted to take at end of the period or we wanted to take the average rate. So end of the period is something that I might do a transaction on the different day, and I will take
Mm-hmm.
maybe on 30th or 31st of the end of the period, and I'll calculate whether this is a gain or loss. Or the
Okay.
other way of taking is that let's take the yearly this thing. So I'll take the average. So if
Okay.
you are taking average, which means if let's take 4 days transaction,
Mm-hmm.
70, 72, 74, and again 70. So in this case, it will take 71 as an rate. So from this,
Okay.
it will calculate either it is a gain or loss.
Okay. So what does that corporate? What does it do? It takes it. What is that? Is that an account or what is it?
No,
What?
corporate is daily rate.
Oh,
So
rate. Okay.
yeah, wait. So this is kind of an what do you call the register where we will store the currency values. So
Okay.
we will
Okay.
see after this, like before entering the manual journal entries, we will see this option.
Okay.
So we will see that corporate. So corporate is given by Oracle basically, the seeded one.
Okay.
So there we will add our currency and the foreign currency that we are making the transaction,
Mm-hmm.
and we will give the currency values there,
Okay.
conversion.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the track revaluation, gain or loss by multiple segments. So if we have multiple segments to track the gain or loss, so we
Mm-hmm.
can enable it here. So since
Okay.
we don't have multiple segments, I have left it open.
Okay.
And we have the prevent journal entries period close when the subledger period exists, which means if the subledger periods are open, so we cannot close the GL period. The
Okay.
system will restrict.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all like related to the suspense account. So let's say we have an imbalanced accounting entry. So I
Mm-hmm.
have debit 100 and credit 80 rupees. So which means debit and credit is not equal. So if
Mm-hmm.
we enable the suspense, so system
Mm-hmm.
what it will do is that it will take the suspense account from here. So whatever account we are giving it here, system will
Mm-hmm.
take and system will process it.
Okay.
And rounding account. So rounding account is for the currency precision. So maybe we will
Mm-hmm.
have 10.23, 10.43. So similarly, so
Mm-hmm.
the precision difference will be stored in the rounding account.
Okay.
And this would be like entered currency balancing account.
Mm-hmm.
So it is on the entered amount. So this is
Okay.
for the rounding, but this is for the entered currency.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the journal approval. So if we want to enable the journal for approval, so we
Mm-hmm.
can enable this option. But
Okay.
whereas this will apply for the entire ledger. So we cannot
Okay.
apply for a specific account and the other things.
Okay.
Okay. So if we want to notify, so like if we are enabling this option, notify, so which means we will get it here in the notification.
Okay.
So we can click notify when prior period journal is entered. So which means if someone is entering any journal in the future enterable period, so we will get it notified.
Is it the future or the past?
No, this is not on past. So on past we cannot enter any journal entry. I mean we will not
Oh,
be
when it
able to
said
see.
prior period, so I thought it was prior to whatever the current period. So that's why I was thinking it was maybe the one before that.
No, I think this should be future. I mean I haven't used this option, but I believe this
No,
is
no, no, no. I don't think so because when it says, I mean, at least by the words,
mm,
when I say notify when prior period journal is entered, prior means it's before.
okay. Let me check once. I mean,
Yeah,
I'll confirm tomorrow.
yeah. Even I don't know, but
Yeah,
just by going with the word, so
yeah, yeah.
I
Fine.
may be wrong. Who knows?
I'll check
That's
it once.
fine. Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, and if you want to have the allocation, so we will see the allocation separately. But for now, if you want to use the allocation, so we will
Mm-hmm,
have to create the statistical journal and the other things. So for that, if you
mm-hmm,
want to use the mixed statistical and monetary journal, so that we can use it. I mean, we can allow to
mm-hmm.
and validate reference state. So this will just validate the reference state that is coming from the subledger.
Okay. So these are all that can be entered later, right? None of them are mandatory here.
No, this is not mandatory. These are optional.
Yeah.
And enable reconciliation. So this is again for the account level reconciliation, but not the subledger and GL reconciliation.
Mm-hmm,
And if we want to enable the intercompany accounting, so we saw that if the BSP balancing segment value is between the legal entities, so which
mm-hmm,
means this is an intercompany transaction. So whether we
mm-hmm,
want to enable those transactions. So if we are enabling this option, so which
mm-hmm.
means we can do transaction between LEs. So if we
Mm-hmm.
disable this option, we cannot use this as an intercompany transaction itself. System will
Okay.
give an alert that intercompany accounting is not enabled for this lecture.
Okay.
So we will enable this in the AP part. So when we are using this,
Mm-hmm,
and we have the reversal criteria. So maybe the reversal criteria we can just set up. So this will be for the category, and we can say that at what scenario this the reversal can be made. Uh, So we have created different criteria. Maybe after this, we will see like what is criteria and how it is working. And if you want to use the average balance, that we can use it here. So I'm not selecting this option since I wanted to have only the entered balances.
Hmm.
And we have the document sequencing. So document sequencing is something like our this one, the voucher number basically.
Okay. So when it comes to GL and it is document sequencing, when we say the setup here, it is for the journals?
Yeah. So there are two things. So whether we wanted to have for the journals or for the receivables. But what
Oh,
we are seeing it here is that for the payables. So if you see here,
oh, this is for payables. Okay.
yeah,
Oh, you have to define them here itself. Okay. Okay.
yeah. So
I
we
thought
should
it
enable
was
it.
GL setup, right? So I thought it was only for GL. Okay.
Yeah, basically we will enable here, and then we have a different setup to create the document sequence. So
Okay.
unless we enable it here, we will not be able to use that option.
Oh.
Mm.
So when you click no sequencing, but you still can go to the subledgers and do the sequencing there?
No, we cannot use it. So we should use mark this payable and receivable.
Oh, okay. Only then you can do it.
Yeah,
And the sequencing is something that you can define here in the sense like should it start from zero, should it start
yes,
from
yes.
10,000, 1,000, or whatever. But where is that? I mean,
Yeah, that's what we will see when we are seeing the AP module because if we
oh, okay, okay, sorry. Go
yeah,
ahead. I don't want. I was just thinking, where is it here? So I was wondering. Okay,
yeah,
not a problem.
so here we have only option to enable. So I thought I'll just show this
Oh,
one.
yeah, not a problem.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So we have defined the ledger options. So the
Hmm.
next one, what we have is that to assign the balancing segment values. So this we can assign either to the legal entity or ledger. So at
Okay.
what case we will assign to the legal entities and what case we will assign it to the ledger is that maybe if we have so we have two things. So at designing the ledger, so
Hmm.
we might opt for the one-to-one ledger, which means one ledger and one operating unit, or we
Hmm.
might have one ledger and 10 operating units.
Hmm.
So on this case, maybe we have created one ledger and we have
Hmm.
created 10 different legal entities and each operating unit is attached to the ledger. So for this case, what we can do is,
Oh, can you put it on this Excel, please?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes. So first case, we have the ledger created as an UHA, US ledger. And for this, we have one legal entity. So that is UHA. Uh, NY. So in this case, we have
So
business.
ledger comes at the top, no, right? Legal entity comes at the top. No, I'm getting confused. The structure, it starts with ledger, then legal entity, then business unit.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So for this case, we have one business unit. So in this example, if you see, so I can have three kind of structures. So based on the business requirement.
Mm-hmm.
So here, how I have taken is that on the first case, I have one ledger
Mm-hmm.
and I have two different legal entities. That is one for New York and the other one is for California. So for the
Mm-hmm.
New York, I have one business unit that is defined under this particular legal entity.
Mm-hmm.
So for this case, what I will do is that I will add BSV under this particular legal entity instead of attaching it to the ledger directly.
Okay.
So I would say 1000 is my result and 2000 would be for the legal entity too.
Mm-hmm.
So similarly, here if you see, I have one legal entity, but I have attached
Two
two
business
business
units.
unit under the same legal. So in this
Mm-hmm.
case, I can either attach directly to the ledger or I can attach it to the legal entity. This will not make any difference because anyway, I have only one legal entity created, but I didn't map it with the multiple legal entity and the business unit. This thing.
Okay.
And here again, this will be similar case. If you see here as well. So I have the similar case. I have mapped it to the on ledger legal entity and this one. So in this case, what I will do is that I will map 1000,
Okay.
Similarly, I will map it for the California as well. So however I want to map it. But in
Okay.
this case, we will have this option. So this will make difference because we are having the business unit based on the legal entity. So
Mm-hmm.
this case, we will go with the BSV mapping with the um, legal entity instead of mapping it directly to the ledger.
Okay.
Yeah, fine. We will see it in application.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in our case, if you see, we created one ledger, one legal entity, and we might be creating one business unit. So I will directly attach it to the ledger since I don't have multiple options here. I have just added 1,000.
Oh, so basically, when you do this one, you're attaching the company value, which is the segment value here.
Yes, correct.
Okay, which is basically what you call it, the business unit.
No, this is not business unit. This is balancing segment value.
This is, yeah, balancing segment value.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Yeah, for me, in my head, I'm trying to differentiate between a company and a business unit. Okay.
Yeah, actually, company in the sense that I mean the difference between business unit and the value that we are giving it at the segment balancing segment is that business unit would be an unit where we will generate the revenue or we might incur some expenses.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I have a head office, so which will
Mm-hmm.
make payment to all the expenses. So, in our case, maybe core and non-core will the payments will be happening only in the head office.
Mm-hmm.
So, where the branch officers will be making it the only the invoices. So, again,
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, the invoices will be sent to the head office for the payment. So, which means this head office is my unit, business unit, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm making some expenses here, or the branch office as well. And the other
Okay.
office I have as an sales unit. So, I have
Mm-hmm.
a showroom. So, I'm just making some sales out of it. So, which means I'm
Mm-hmm.
generating revenue. So, this is a business unit for me.
Okay.
But whereas the value that we are giving it in the company segment is that
Mm-hmm.
I'm capturing this particular transaction using this company, which means I say to the system that
Mm-hmm.
from this company in this department using this account combination, I'm making either expense or revenue.
Okay.
So that is the difference between business unit and the balancing segment. So this is
Okay.
highly on the reporting side,
Mm-hmm.
the values that we are entering for the chart of account. So
Mm-hmm.
this is highly on the reporting side, but whereas the operating unit or the business unit is the actual unit where we are generating the revenue or expense.
Mm-hmm.
So this
Okay.
is basically used only to record the expenses, but that is the actual unit where the expense or the revenue is happening.
Okay.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so we have assigned the balancing segment value as well. So we don't have the secondary ledger. So I'll explain the secondary ledger as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll take an example in our same this thing. So we have operations in US and we have operations in India and we
Mm-hmm.
have operation in Singapore. So for this
Mm-hmm.
case, so the actual founder is sitting in US. So which means headquarters is in US, but they have operations
Mm-hmm.
in India and Singapore as well.
Mm-hmm.
So which means I create the transaction here in either of the country, but
Mm-hmm.
if a financial report to be seen, so which needs to be consolidated. So here if you see, so we have ledger for India,
Mm-hmm.
India ledger, and we have Singapore ledger,
Mm-hmm.
and we have US ledger.
Mm-hmm.
So here I have a financial statement for US ledger. Again, I will have financial statement for India and I will have it for the Singapore ledger as well. So how do we consolidate all this financial transaction that is happening in the different countries? So we
Mm-hmm.
have an option called ledger set. So
Mm-hmm.
when do we use this ledger set? So we can use the ledger set when the so we have a condition for this. So if the accounting calendar, so the calendar which we created
Mm-hmm.
and the chart of accounts that we are having it.
Mm-hmm.
is same.
Accounting calendar and chart of account is same. Okay.
Yes. So if these two are same, so which means I can use the ledger set.
Okay.
But if the COA or the
Oh
accounting
yeah, I got it.
calendar is different, I cannot use this ledger set. So this is the condition to use the ledger set.
Mm-hmm.
But if you see in our combination, so the calendar is different for US. The calendar is different from India. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
Singapore, I could use the same calendar which I'm using for India. So
Mm-hmm.
mostly it will be different, but even though since this is
Mm-hmm.
physical and this is also physical, I might use. But the US calendar is different from this one. So I cannot use
Mm-hmm.
this option. So what I
Okay.
should do is that I have something called consolidation.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to use the consolidation, we will use the COA mapping since the ledger is different from each other. So I will use the
Okay.
consolidation, global consolidation rule, and I will
Mm-hmm.
map this.
Okay.
So this is one way of handling this one. So the
Mm-hmm.
other way of handling is that I will use the secondary ledger. So when I will use the secondary ledger, so we have two things. So one is secondary ledger,
Mm-hmm.
and the other one is reporting ledger.
Mm-hmm.
So when I will use secondary ledger and when I will use the reporting ledger is that let's say I want the representation only in my different currency. So in this case, we even though we have operations in different countries,
Mm-hmm.
founder wants to have the financial statement or the ledger differentiated only based on the currency. So
Mm-hmm.
on those cases, what we can do is that we can create a reporting ledger. So which means whatever transaction that I create in India, so it will
Mm-hmm.
be reported in US currency. So which is that
Mm-hmm.
I can see in the reporting ledger that India transaction will be represented in US form. So which means
Mm-hmm.
I can consolidate this way. And the other way is that I have secondary ledger. So
Mm-hmm.
apart from this, so let's say we have 4C. So currency, calendar, chart of accounts,
Mm-hmm.
and accounting convention. So
Mm-hmm.
if I want to have different accounting convention from what we have, so
Yes.
let's take an China as an example. So here
Mm-hmm.
the China legislation is different from US or the India. So in this
Mm-hmm.
case, if I want to have different accounting convention, I will have it as a different secondary ledger. So that what we will have the mapping between two different accounting convention, and whatever transaction we are posting in US or India, so it will be represented in the different form as per the accounting convention. So after we do the mapping and the other things.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one way or the one requirement for that we can have the secondary ledger. And the for the different calendar, again you can have the secondary ledger.
Mm-hmm.
So for the currency, we can have either the reporting ledger or we can use the secondary ledger also. But mostly people will use reporting ledger if it is to be represented only in the currency.
Okay.
But we have option to enable this secondary ledger as well. So
Okay.
secondary ledger can be used for the accounting convention,
Mm-hmm.
and we can use this for currency, and we can use this for calendar, and we can use this for the different chart of accounts.
Okay.
So that is the difference of having it, and these are the options that we have to consolidate it. So how
Mm-hmm.
do we consolidate is what we need to understand. So
Mm-hmm.
when we are defining the secondary ledger, so basically we will have mappings and the other things involved in it. So when we have done setup with the mapping, so we
Mm-hmm.
do transaction in the primary ledger.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to complete this transaction in the primary ledger, so basically we need to open the period in both the primary ledger and the secondary ledger. So unless both the periods are open, so we will not be able to post this transaction.
Okay.
So this is one thing. And the transaction or the JV. So can we enter both in primary ledger and secondary ledger? So primary ledger we can enter the transaction, but in secondary ledger we cannot enter any transaction. Since this is only the representation of what we are entering it here in the primary ledger. Again, the consolidation part, what we are seeing it here, either the consolidation process or the ledger set. So what
Mm-hmm.
we will do is that we will just consolidate and maybe here in this case, we have the different currencies involved. So the
Mm-hmm.
process would be like we will run the translation, and after running the translation, we will just verify the trial balance. So after
Mm-hmm.
seeing the trial balance, we will run the transfer balances.
Boy, all these financial terms are just too much.
Okay, I'll just explain mm, so consolidation is nothing but I created an invoices worth of maybe 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
And here in India, maybe I have entered 500,000.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, here I have entered 500,000. So which means I can take ledger report separately for US. So if I take the ledger report US, I'll see 1 million worth.
Mm-hmm.
Again, here if I see, I'll see 500,000. Here I'll see 500,000. But we
Mm-hmm.
cannot give this report to a founder. So he will not be able to see it in different level and understand it.
Mm-hmm.
So he will expect to see the financial report as in consolidated. So how do we
Mm-hmm.
consolidate and say that the financial year 2021 has the worth of or the transaction worth of 2 million.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to consolidate this. So since we
Mm-hmm.
have different currencies involved in it, so we
Mm-hmm.
need to run the translation. So translation is nothing but this will translate the balances at the end of the period, which
Okay.
means this will convert the balances at end of the day. So it could be end of the day uh, rate or it could be average rate. So we saw while defining the
Yeah.
ledger.
Mm-hmm.
So based on that, we will see this option. So we have translated it. So let's say this 5 million, what we are seeing is that Indian currency. So if
Mm-hmm.
we convert it, maybe we will say 5 million 10,000.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, the value might change.
Mm-hmm.
So based on that, we will do the translation and the trial balance will change accordingly. So once this
Okay.
translation is done, so we will know that so this is the balance that we have done. So once this is done, we will transfer the balances. So which means we will transfer the balance from India ledger to US ledger. Again, we
Mm-hmm.
will transfer the balance from Singapore ledger to US ledger. So which
Mm-hmm.
means now if I take this US ledger, I will see the balance as in 2 million.
Mm-hmm.
So this we call as in consolidation.
Okay.
So we have the other option. So that is secondary ledger. So secondary ledger will tell us that so anyway, so secondary ledger is nothing but our US ledger. So
Mm-hmm.
for India we will have one secondary ledger, so that is US, and for Singapore again we will have one secondary ledger, that is US. So that whatever
Mm-hmm.
transaction we are making here in India ledger and
Mm-hmm.
Singapore ledger,
Mm-hmm.
we will have it reported in the US ledger also.
Okay.
So when we run the trial balance or any financial report, so we will see this as an 2 million but not 1 million. So which
Okay.
will give the consolidated balances to the founder.
Okay.
So this is the basic difference between the consolidation, secondary ledger and reporting ledger.
Okay.
And these are the conditions where we will use this. So
Mm-hmm.
reporting ledger can be used only for the currency is different.
Okay.
And here we can use it when the accounting convention is different, or the calendar is different, or the chart of account is different. So at what case chart of accounts will be different is that maybe we will have some odd case where based on the complaints in US, we will
Mm-hmm.
maintain different account combination, but whereas in India or Singapore, we might use it differently. So for those cases, we will maintain different chart of accounts. So
Okay.
again, since we are seeing in Fusion, so we can
Mm-hmm.
use the same chart of accounts and we can use it with the different instances and we can map it.
Okay.
And calendar as well. So we can have the different calendars and we can map it. So these are the ways that we can consolidate the balances.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is what about the secondary ledger and the ways to consolidate the balance at a high level.
Mm-hmm.
So once this is done, what we will do is that we will review this balance, review this accounting setup what we have done, and we will submit this to create the S-Space cubes.
What? Okay.
Okay. So what is S-Space cube? So S-Space cube is nothing but three-dimensional cubes. So whatever transaction that we are making,
Mm-hmm.
so this S-Space cube will basically create at two levels. So one at the ledger creation
Mm-hmm.
and the other at the transaction or the JV. So S-Space database is
JV means
a
journal.
journal voucher or the journal
J-
entry.
Journal. Journal entry. Okay.
Yeah. So S-Space is used for only for the accounting purposes.
Okay. What is this S space? Is it something technical?
No, it is not technical. So basically, we have taken this from Hyperion. So
Oh.
SPS is the product of Hyperion. So we have
Oh.
taken two things into fusion from the Hyperion application after Oracle procured this particular product. So we are
Okay.
using it for the financial reporting. So we have something called FRS, Financial Reporting Studio.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been taken up from Hyperion. And we
Okay.
are using another thing called budgeting. So again, the budgeting part, we are taking it from the Hyperion. So for this two
Okay.
purpose, we are using this SPACE database.
Okay.
So majorly for the FRS, Financial Reporting Studio, we are using this. So where it will use is that this will be used kind of an pivot table. So anyone having a minimum understanding on the reporting and the other aspect can create the financial reporting. So if you
Okay.
see in EBS, so anyone can create the financial statements like the cash flow, P&L, and the other reports using the FSG. So similarly, here we have the financial reporting studio where we can use it easily.
Okay.
So SPACE will create a cubical value. So if I create a ledger, so
Mm-hmm.
system will generate a cube. So if I
Okay.
enter any transaction, so it should be an accounting transaction. So we saw that GL is nothing but our accounting repository.
Mm-hmm.
So I create any transaction in the AP module or AR module. So end of the day, I'm going to transfer all the accounting entries relevant to this transaction to the general ledger module.
Mm-hmm.
So I will not create cubes for the accounting transaction. I mean, the transaction that I create in AP. So this transaction will be stored in specific modules of Fusion application. So I will take report out of this in the OTBA report or maybe the other BI publisher report. But
Okay.
this space, what we are seeing is that is only for the accounting information. So I created a transaction and now I am accounting this transaction. So this will create a queue. but whereas the transaction will not create a queue. So that is the basic understanding. So
Okay.
this transaction that we have created, so this will create as a three-dimensional cube. So this will not be rows and column combination, but instead this will be a cubical value.
Okay.
So this will create at two level. When we are creating the ledger, system will create a queue, and when we are creating a transaction against this ledger, the system will create a queue.
Okay.
So this is about the space. So we'll see it in application.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we have done our setup. So that is we have seen the balancing segment value and the other things. And
Mm-hmm.
now we will review this configuration that what we have done.
Okay.
Yeah. So so we can see here that cube hasn't created it.
Mm-hmm.
So after we submit this, we will see that cube is being created. So I'll just submit this configuration.
Mm-hmm.
So this will trigger and concurrent program. I mean the schedule job.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll navigate to schedule process. Yeah. So if we can see here, so it will be complete accounting configuration, and then this will create an cubes, create
Mm-hmm.
balance cubes. So once this is completed, we can check our accounting configuration. So where the cubes will be created.
Complete accounting. Okay. So basically, it's kicking off child processes here.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So the load chart of accounts values, is that what we did? That also is us? No, right?
No, I mean this
That is
is ours only, but this is not relevant to this. So as a part of accounting configuration, this child program will be triggered
okay.
based on the values that we have loaded in our chart of accounts.
Okay.
So we loaded only one value, so that one value
Hmm.
will be taken up here.
Completed. Okay. Index active meta model version. That's wait. So that should also complete
No, only this program. So we are done
only
with
this
it.
three.
So we
Okay.
can check this one. Yeah. So now the balance cube has been generated.
Oh, so has the same name as the chart of account. Okay.
Yeah. So this cube is nothing but on our chart of accounts.
Okay.
So when we are seeing the FRS also, if we see, So there we will see our chart of accounts as a database. So which means this entire reporting will work based on our chart of account values.
Okay.
Okay. So that's it. We have created. I mean, we have given the configuration part.
Mm-hmm.
So apart from that, we have two other things left over. So one is
Okay.
manage ledger. I mean, not ledger. Ledger data access for the user.
Okay.
So once we complete our configuration, basically system will generate an data set. So this
Okay.
data set will allow us to access our ledger.
Okay.
So what we will do is that we will give the role to this particular user, or maybe I'll use the user that already we have defined it.
Mm-hmm.
So here we have two things. So one is to create the role and attach it to the user. So once that is done,
Mm-hmm.
we will attach it for the data access. So we will just click add.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we have assigned the role and we have given the access to the user.
Mm-hmm.
So we will log out from this user and we will log in to the user where we gave the access. So
Mm-hmm.
from there we will open the period and we will try to create a transaction.
Okay. You can't open the period as whatever that implementation consultant.
No, with that we cannot open the period because if
Ah.
you see opening the period is completely business activity. It is not related to setup. So with
Okay.
application implementation consultant, we will be able to we will be able to do only the setup part. But whereas we cannot do anything on this one, the business activities.
Okay. So the one that you just did, right? The security role, I mean, basically you gave access to this role.
Yeah.
So this is the security part. So the cross validation is the other part, right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
the security that we have given is for the roles. So if I
Hmm.
have role, so I can access this. So maybe I'll check if I have the payable role. I'll just show it from here. Yeah, I don't have payable role. So if you
Hmm.
see here, so this is the latest period. If I want to
Hmm.
open the next period, I'll not be able to open the period. If you see here, this is grayed out.
Grayed out. Okay.
I cannot open this. But I have role for general ledger and receivable. So here I can
Okay.
open the period. I think I don't have receivable period. I mean receivable role also.
Role.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'll check with this one. GL. Yeah, here I have access to it. So I can open this period. So similarly, I
okay.
need to have access to APA or GL, any module. So unless
But when you just a second before you move on, right? So the ledger there is KK ledger, not our ledger.
yeah, that we can select from the list.
So
Yeah,
if we go to our ledger, what will it be? Will it have anything?
just Yeah, for our ledger, we will have access to only GL, this thing again.
Yeah. So do we have to specifically give the ledger? No, you already gave that, right? When you were doing the security role thing?
Yeah, that we have given it, but by default, system has taken KK ledger. I don't know why it is taken. I'll just check it.
Yeah, that's what we did not do last time. It was, I think, by default, it was at users without data access.
Okay. Yeah, I think access
We
was.
may have to add it again.
Mm.
Hmm. A record with this combination exists. That's weird. Boy, these guys have no other work.
Okay, maybe I'll check log out and log in. Maybe I'm getting.
Hmm. Now you got that.
Yeah,
So what did you do there? You
yeah,
basically logged out and logged back in. That's it.
yeah. Yeah, just a minute. So what I did is that I assigned this financial analyst role as well. and I logged out and logged in, and I changed this
Mm.
data set to UHI.
Okay, okay.
So now we are getting it.
So we can open periods like this for all the entire year.
No, here actually for the testing purpose we are doing it, but usually it will not be for all the years.
Yeah.
Uh, so how it?
Once a month. I mean, like.
Yeah, yes, correct. Periodically, like this is October, we will open only the October period. So unless we close the remaining period, so we will not do this.
Hmm.
So this is one thing, and the other thing, when we are doing the data migration, we will open all the periods, and
Okay.
we will load the values. I mean the
Hmm.
balances. So once the balances are loaded, then we will close the period, and we will verify the balances.
Okay.
So apart from that, normally we will not open all the periods.
So data migration is only when you're implementing, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Okay, so now we can see that this is in open period.
Hmm.
So basically, we will have three things here. I mean, we will see three things. So one is open, future enterable, or never open. So never open, which means we don't have feature period or we haven't opened the period.
Okay.
So feature is something that we have given that one will be the feature period. So that is what feature, and open is period is open.
Okay.
So now we are good to start our transaction. Uh,
Hmm.
I mean, we need to load the chart of account values also.
Hmm.
Uh, it is 9 actually. So can we
Yeah.
start tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We can start tomorrow because it's too much is good.
Okay. So anyway, I'll just share this Excel file also
Yeah.
in the drive. So maybe you can check, and if the if any clarification is required, you can just ping in
Okay.
group or anything. So I can.
Yeah, yeah. And also any notes if you have also
Yeah,
share.
yeah, I forgot that. Yeah, I'll share. I'll share to you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, see you tomorrow. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Bye.